I have here already a blank Access database ready to go. I've named it something that's relevant, so I've just named this one class demo. It's just saved on my desktop for ease of use, and now I'm going to import my data. So this one looks slightly different than the ones at school. I have an import bit, but unlike the text file, I actually have to sort of dig around for it a little bit. Here it is in the text file, and then I can browse, find the text file that I want, and then try and import my data. I want to leave it as delimited. Characters such as commas or tabs do separate the fields. So we've got these inverted commas with these commas here that separate the fields, and we want our first row to contain headers. We did have a comma, and we did have the text qualifier as being the inverted commas that were separating. So everything's absolutely fine with that. I don't want to have a primary key when I first import my data. And then as soon as my data has all been imported, I now have one huge table with all my data in there. Now I do actually want to export that now into a spreadsheet. It's by default going to the desktop again. That's absolutely fine. That's what I want it to do. And then when I close that, there we go, my Excel spreadsheet is there. So when I open that up, this is now the process of trying to fiddle around with what data goes with what data. Okay, so what I do know about is the fact that anything that has the word ID in it will need to have its own table. Okay, working out what goes in that table is slightly more difficult. So what I do know is that I'm going to have a cleaner ID. Now in order to help me to find out what goes in my cleaner table, I'm going to put a filter on, and I'm going to filter just for cleaner number 1. Cleaner number 1, okay, therefore at the bottom there tells me it has 28 records out of 577, and the blue tells me that there is a filter on. So what I'm looking for as I go through are any repeats. The cleaner name is identical, the cleaner surname for cleaner 1 is repeated, so that will go in 1. The supervisor for cleaner 1 has been repeated, so I know that that now goes in that. The telephone number for cleaner number 1 is all repeated, so that must be the cleaner's telephone number. However, the cleaning service has not. The gender has repeats, so I'm going to make that one colour. The job doesn't. The cleaner email does. The supervisor email does. However, the supervisor email depends on who the supervisor is, not on who the cleaner is. So I'm going to avoid putting that one in. As I scroll along, I've got a job star rating, a cleaning service, and again the supervisor name depends on the supervisor. The supervisor name does not depend on the cleaner ID. So those are all the things that I want to go into my first table. Okay, now there is a way of being able to go back into your Access and do this without having to import your data again. We're going to go to the create, and we're going to create a query using the data that we've already got in our table. I'm going to now take and click and drag all of those elements that I wanted to be in that table. So I want to have my cleaner ID, I wanted to have my supervisor ID, I wanted to have my cleaner name, my cleaner surname, their telephone number, their gender, their email. Okay, so I've got cleaner ID, supervisor, name, surname, telephone number, gender, and email. When I run this, I can still see the fact that I have got 155 records. I don't want to have 155 records. What I want to do, and in order to make this work I need to click off my table, I need to make sure that I've got my property sheet open, and I say I want to have only unique values in my table. Okay, now that I've got unique values, when I run it, I can see I've only got 32 cleaners in my table, which is what I wanted to have. Now, I'm now going to make a table. Note that when you look at the design brief, you need a relational database that accepts the data, avoids unnecessary duplication, and recognises the naming conventions. What is meant by that is the fact that I'm going to use the table and then the underscore, and then I'm going to name it cleaner because that is my cleaners table. Okay, so that is now sitting in the background there. Okay, having made that table. When I run, it says you're about to paste 32 rows into a new table, and I'm going to press yes. Okay, when I close that query, I don't want to save the design of the query. Okay, pretty sure I clicked no. And then when I open my cleaner table, I have my 32 records for my cleaner table all in there. Okay, still needs to have my original data open. I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet now. They were all the things that appeared in my cleaner table. Now remember I said that your cleaner had a one-to-one relationship with the supervisor. One cleaner has one supervisor. If we take that filter off, and when you do, everything at the side goes black again, and then think about what is the next column to have the word ID in it. That's the supervisor. So let's now have a look at the things that relate to the supervisor. When I filter for supervisor number 1, I can see that supervisor number 1 has a lot of cleaners down the side. So there is a one-to-many relationship. And that's why the supervisor had to go in the table with the one-to-one relationship rather than the one-to-many. As we've already discussed, the supervisor email and the supervisor name are the two things that relate to the supervisor. So we're now going to put those in our database. So again, create, query. I'm creating it from here and then closing that. And I'm going to take the values that I want. So I'm going to take the supervisor ID with the supervisor email and the supervisor name. That's the supervisor name. There's the supervisor email. And now when I run that, I can see again, I've still got 577 records. So in my design view, I want to go to unique values and say, yes, I only want unique values. When I run that, I now only have the 4 supervisors that I want to have, which is good. I now need to make the table. So this is now table underscore supervisors. And I'm going to click OK. Okay, so now that I've done that, I want to run, and it says you are about to paste 4 rows into a new table. Okay, so yes, that's exactly right. That's what I wanted to do. I am going to delete that query, and then when I open my supervisor table, I have a perfect supervisor table. Okay, I'm going to close my supervisor table because I don't need it there. I'm going to go back to my Excel spreadsheet again. So now I've got 2 out of the possible 4 things that I need. So the next tab that has the word ID on it, that just says cleaning service, is the cleaning service ID. So I'm going to give that a different colour. I'm going to make sure that I've taken all my filters off. Remember, you can check at the side. If it's blue, it's filtered. And if you've got a something out of something at the bottom there, then you have got a filter on. As soon as you do that, that disappears at the bottom and everything turns black. So let's have a look at the cleaning service. What are the things that are related to my 6 cleaning services? So lots of that information as you scroll through is different. Okay, so as I scroll through, I'm thinking about where are the repeats for that. The only thing that is repeated for the whole time is the fact that cleaning service number 1 is called a quick clean. Okay, so cleaning service number 1 and cleaning service are the things that go together. So back into my database. Again, I'm going to create, query. I'm taking it from my original data. And I this time want my cleaning service and my cleaning service ID. So there's my cleaning service ID. There's my cleaning service. And again, when I run it, I've got lots and lots of entries. In fact, I've still got my 577 records. So I need to click off that. I need to go and I say, I only want unique values. Yes, I do. When I run it, I only have 6 things in my table. That's exactly what I want to have in my table. Notice when you're in query view, you don't get the extra rows or columns with the asterisks in. That's absolutely fine. Remember, before you can copy and paste that, I need to make a new table. So I'm going to use the table underscore, and I'm going to say these are my cleaning services. Helps if I can spell. Okay, so cleaning, make that an underscore as well. Okay, so table cleaning service, okay. And then when I run it, you are about to paste 6 rows into the new table. Yes, I do. I run that. I don't want to save that, thank you. And I'm going to just check that my cleaning service table is exactly what I want it to look like. Now I've got this extra row that I wanted with the asterisks in it. That is so that new data can be added into your table. New data can't be added into your query, it can only be added into your table. Okay, so we're back into our data and we've got one last thing to be sorted out now. Don't know why I clicked on that because we didn't really need to be seeing that. Okay, so I've got some things now that haven't actually got any colour whatsoever. Okay, and that is this idea of somebody being able to phone up and book a job. So here we go, we've got a job being booked with a job ID. Okay, now as soon as that job is going to be booked, there has to be several things that happen. So first of all, let's look at the different IDs. Okay, so think about all the 4 different IDs that we've got. So we've got this job ID, we've got a cleaner ID. Will a cleaner have to be assigned to that job? Yes, they will. And therefore the cleaner ID will have to go in that table as well. Will the supervisor have to be assigned to that job? No, because the supervisor is assigned to the cleaner, not to the actual job. Will the cleaning service have to be assigned to the job? Will the client have to decide which cleaning service they want? Yes, they will. So I've now got 3 IDs in that table. Along with that, I then have some other data that has not yet been selected. So the date of the cleaning service and then the job star rating that the supervisor gave it. Okay, so now I can go back into my database, and again I'm going to create a query. I'm going to create it from my original set of data, and I'm going to put all of that information into it. So the job is the essential one, that's almost like the primary key, if you like, and then into that I will need a cleaner and I will need a service. So those are the 3 IDs that go in. Then I need the date of the cleaning service, so cleaning service date into there, and then I need the job star rating. That's happening here. When I run it, okay, I'm told that I want 1 out of 577 records. Okay, when I go here and I say I all want to have unique values and I press yes and I run, I've still got 577 records. That is because there are 577 jobs. There were no duplicates in our spreadsheet when we did this. So finally, again, I go to make table, and then I use table underscore, and I'm just going to call this one jobs and press OK. So now I can close that query. I do not want that. I did want that, because for some reason I didn't run it. So that wasn't very clever at all, was it? So let's go back and do that again. So I wanted my query design, and into there I want my job ID, and I want my cleaner ID. I don't want my supervisor ID, but I do want my cleaning service. I also want the date, and I want the job star rating. And I'm making a table. It's probably going to tell me that my table actually exists. So I'm going to call this one cleaning jobs, just so that there isn't any mishap. Okay, and I do need to run it. There we go, and there it is. It's run, and now Mrs. Curtis has done it right, and now I can close that table, and I should have everything that I need in all of my tables over here, which is excellent. At that point then I can delete my original lot of data, and I have my 4 tables in my database as I wanted to. Okay, at this point in time you have almost completed activity number 1. In order to complete activity number 1, you would need to show all the relationships between the things in your table. Now, personally, I think that if you do it at this point in here and you click and drag all the things, then you don't necessarily have the data integrity that you need. So it doesn't show you where you have a one-to-many relationship. Okay, it does help you to focus on which thing goes in which table. Okay, and bear in mind that we haven't yet assigned our primary keys. Okay, so it might be worth going back, just closing that, saying I'm going to save my changes, and then going back into each of these and assigning our primary keys before we go any further. So in design view, in my cleaner email, I want my primary key. Okay, when I close it, it will save it. I press yes. For my cleaning jobs, okay, I want my design view, my cleaning job is my primary key. Okay, so as soon as I close that, that should save. My cleaning service, in design view, my cleaning service is my primary key. I close it, it should save. And finally my supervisors, in design view, my supervisor is my primary key. I close that and it should save it. Okay, you can see what difference that's made here, that you now have all your primary keys all lined up like that. And so it is a case of clicking from the primary key and finding where else that has been put as such. So you can move your tables around to do this if you want. So I'm going to start with my cleaner. I know that my cleaner also had a supervisor ID. So I know that somehow, there we go, my supervisor ID from here went to my supervisor ID here. I then create, and it will create that link. It hasn't got the little 1 to infinity symbol in that just yet, but this should be enough to get us through activity number 1. Remember, activity number 1 gives you 8 marks, which means that you are pretty much halfway to getting a pass, which is a good thing. Okay, so into there I'm now going to have my cleaning jobs. So my cleaning job has a cleaner ID in it. So my cleaner ID links to my cleaner ID. I say I want to create. That's absolutely fine. And then I'm going to put my cleaning service over here. My cleaning service ID links to my cleaning service ID in here. And I want to create. And then I've also got nothing else. I think that's everything, isn't it? So I've got my supervisor into my supervisor, my cleaner ID into my cleaner ID over here, my service ID into my service ID over here. So 1, 2, 3 links, all perfect. When I close that, it will ask me to save. Yes, I do want it to save. Once you've taken a screenshot of that, that should be your activity number 1 all over and done with, and that is the end of my first video.